This video is on the topic of fruits. So by the end of this video, you should be able to explain the choice in terms of nutrients, uses, and effects of preparation and cooking of fruits. You should also be able to explain enzymatic browning in fruits and vegetables. So what are fruit? Fruits are a part of a plant that contain seeds and they develop from flowers. Fruits are typically sweet, but not all fruits. So, for example, avocados aren't sweet. So, let's talk about nutrients. Now, most fruit contain a lot of water. They're anywhere between 70 to 95% water. Now, when fruit aren't ripe, they are typically very high in starch and low in sugar, which is why if you eat a green banana, it is not sweet. While when fruit ripen, the starch actually breaks down into sugars, so the fruit gets sweeter. So if you look at these bananas here, the banana on the left, which is green, labeled as 1, is not sweet and it's very high in starch, but as it ripens, the starch will actually break down to sugars. So banana number 7, which is yellow and a little bit brown, is very sweet. And the sugars that are in fruit and ripe fruit are typically glucose, fructose, and sucrose. Now, fruit are usually low in fat, except for the following 3 food. They are coconuts, avocados, and durian. So coconuts are quite high in saturated fat, whereas avocados and durians are high in monounsaturated fat, which are the good fats. Besides water and fats, most fruit are high in vitamins, especially vitamin A and C. Now, orange and yellow colored fruit are typically high in vitamin A, so examples of these are apricots, mangoes, and papayas. While fruit such as guava, kiwi, oranges, citrus fruit, raspberries, and papaya are high in vitamin C. Fruits aren't usually high in minerals, but quite a lot of fruit contain the mineral potassium. So examples of fruit that are high in potassium include apricots, avocados, guavas, figs, melons, and of course bananas. Fruit aren't usually high in iron, but some dried fruit, such as raisins and apricots, are high in iron. This is because when you remove the water from the fruit, the iron gets concentrated in the fruit. Fruits are also high in dietary fiber, especially when the fruit is consumed with the skin. So examples are apples and pears. Oops. Okay, so now we'll move on to talk about the different types of fruit. Now, fruit can be categorized based on their shape, cell structure, or type of seed. So the following are some categories of fruit. The first one is citrus, where the fruit have shiny, thick rinds, that's the skin, and pulpy flesh divided into segments. So you can see the segmented orange here. So examples would be, like I just mentioned, oranges, lemons, grapefruits, and lime. Berries, on the other hand, are small and fleshy fruit with many seeds inside or on the skin. An example is raspberries or blueberries. Pome is our next category of fruit. These fruit have a central core which contains many seeds and they are surrounded by thick flesh. These include apples and pears. Melons are fruit with a hard outer rind. This is what you can see over here. And firm flesh with many seeds. So this includes rock melon, honeydew, and watermelon. The last category I'll talk about are drupe or stone fruits. These are fruit with single large seeds surrounded by thick flesh, including cherries, apricots, peaches, and plums. Another way to categorize fruit is by the climate they grow in. So an example of this is tropical fruit, such as durians, mangoes, and papaya. All these fruit grow in a tropical climate, such as Singapore. You can also categorize fruit according to whether they are dried or not. So dried fruit typically contain less than 30% of the original water content. Because they are lower in water, they have a longer shelf life. So dried fruit include things like raisins, prunes, dried dates, dried cranberries, dried mangoes, and dried apricots. So how are fruit used in preparation? Now, fruit can be eaten raw because they have a good texture when they're raw. They can also be eaten either whole or cut into wedges or pieces. Fruit can also be used for making salads, such as when you add raisins to a salad. You can use them for making desserts, such as in apple pie or banana cake. You can use fruit to garnish tarts or cakes, such as when you add cherries to cake. And you can also use fruits to make jam or sauces. Now, when we cut or peel fruit, the cut surface of the fruit is actually exposed to oxygen, and this will cause the fruit to turn brown. This is known as enzymatic browning. The same thing happens in some vegetables. Now, the enzymes that are present in the fruit react with the oxygen in the air, which gives it this undesirable color. Now, to prevent this, you can either dip your fruit into acidic juice, such as lime juice, or you can actually dip the fruit into a light sugar syrup. All these will slow down the enzymatic browning. Besides enzymatic browning, when you cut fruit, vitamin C is lost because it is exposed to the air and the oxygen. Also, if you soak fruit, you will lose the vitamin C because vitamin C is water soluble. Now, how about the effects of cooking? Now, when we cook or bake fruit, the fruit will typically have a duller color and soften in texture. The heat-sensitive nutrients and flavor compounds will also be lost when fruit is cooked. The softer texture is a result of the cell walls actually weakening on heating. Now, in terms of dry heat cooking, there's baking and grilling. You can uh, bake fruit in tarts. You can also add fruit to baked goods such as cakes and muffins. The other way that you can dry heat cook fruit is by putting sugar on top and then baking it. And this causes caramelization. An example is this apple pie filling over here. You can see that it's turned a lovely brown. This is because of the caramelization of the sugar. Now, fruit can also be cooked using moist heat cooking methods such as stewing or poaching. Um, Stewed or poached fruit is usually eaten as a dessert or part of a dessert, or can be eaten with oat porridge for breakfast. Now, fruits with high moisture content, you could use a small amount of liquid or syrup to stew the fruit. Stewing fruits in liquids or syrups, especially syrups, will help the fruit to maintain its shape because the sugar will actually go into the cell walls of the fruit. Last slide here. So when you poach a fruit, this is when you submerge the entire fruit in a liquid and it's very gently simmered at 71 to 82 degrees centigrade. This causes the whole fruit to soften. And once the fruit is soft, you want to remove it immediately from the heat to prevent it from overcooking and turning into mush. Sometimes you also leave the fruit to cool down in the syrup so that it will absorb more flavor. And that's the end of this video on fruits.